Hi Room 18 families. I just wanted to reach out to you guys before we begin our parent-teacher conferences next week. And I wanted to send you guys a video that talked about a lot of the things that we did in the first trimester of fourth grade. I found myself last year during conferences just repeating myself over and over and over again and spending that 20 minutes talking about what we had been doing and explaining what we had been doing in class versus actually talking about your child. And so I wanted to spend time doing that now so we can just jump in and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about when we talk about your child's math work and their writing. So I wanted to start off with their writing. And we just finished our personal narrative writings and they did such a great job. I'm so excited about how those came out this year. Your kids worked so hard on them and they learned so many different lessons along the way, and that's really the key importance about what we do in fourth grade is we learn these different teaching points in our curriculum, and then the students learn how to apply those to their own ideas and their own writing. So I just wanted to walk you through a little bit. I'm looking over here at my writer's workshop wall before I start to switch it out. Oh man, I can't flip the video. Okay, well, I'm going to upload some pictures later of what our writer's workshop wall really looks like. Maybe it's kind of backwards, but you can kind of see it. Oh, it's totally backwards. There's the writing process. It starts off with brainstorming, goes to drafting, revising, editing, publishing. We talked about dialogue. I've already updated our opinion publishing date, so you already know we published our narrative pieces. We always look for the big three when we are reviewing our writing. We're looking for capitals, spaces, and punctuation. We started the year off with summarizing, and I've kept these papers up here throughout the year because we continue to summarize, and we usually summarize by doing this strategy called somebody wanted, but so then. And so the somebody is who was the main character, what did the main character want, what was the problem, so how did the character try and solve that problem, and what was the solution for that problem? That's the strategy they've been using to summarize. Over here up on our writer's workshop wall, we have the checklist. This is the holy grail of what we have been going by for all of our writer's workshop. This is what your children have been referring to throughout the entire trimester so far about all the different parts of writing that they need to include in their personal narrative, and they'll continue to do that throughout the other writing elements we do through the year. We talked about dialogue and how to punctuate dialogue. We spent quite a bit of time on this. When you have a tag at the start, you talk about who is talking, where the comma goes, and where the punctuation goes, versus a tag at the end where you have your quote and then said blank, said somebody. We also had some lengthy discussions about figurative language and different types of figurative language, and they learned how to include figurative language into their personal narratives. We also used some strategies in our writing called show, don't tell, and the purpose of this, so sorry, it's backwards, is that writers show rather than tell by creating an image in the reader's mind. So rather than saying, Anna was mad, you can say something like, Anna furrowed her eyebrows, narrowed her eyes, and put her hands on her hips. It took all the control she had not to yell. You're really showing the author, or showing the reader, what the character's doing rather than just telling them that the character was mad. We also spent quite a bit of time on, actually still back up here on show, don't tell. What their strategy was they had to, after they wrote their personal narratives, they went back through and revised, and one of the things that they did when they revised was they found these different words like shocked, sad, happy, excited, angry, and it goes on and on, tired, cold, hot, embarrassed, nervous, when they were describing characters, and then they had to go through and replace the word like shocked by saying eyes popping out or gasping for air or hands covering your mouth, in order to truly describe what the character was feeling. That was their way of doing show, don't tell, because that's really a hard one for fourth graders. I also give them some student examples. Also, when it comes to doing leads, this was something we spent quite a bit of time on. We really practiced doing 4 different strategies for leads. So your child was given kind of a choice to use one of these strategies to engage their reader. They had to use like a sound, an onomatopoeia, like bang, boom, pop, or a question. Have you ever wondered what a giraffe's tongue feels like? You know, that gets your reader intrigued about what you're going to be writing about. And then an action. As we turned the corner, my heart raced quickly as I anticipated the zombie coming around the corner. It's an action. Something is happening. The heart's racing quickly. I anticipated. There's some sparkly words up in here. And then another strategy to use for a lead was dialogue. So they could have some conversation between characters in their narrative. And they also saw some student examples for that. And then one of the final things that we did was we were using different transition words. And the important thing with the transition words that it shows not only first, next, last. We're kind of moving beyond that now in 4th grade. We're trying to show how quickly time is going by, either by saying something happened suddenly or something happened after a while. And so we're really kind of going into the next step. So that was really a challenge for them as 4th graders to try and find some words to transition from moment to moment in their story by telling how much time had gone by and not just using the words first, next, last. That's really kind of like a 1st through 3rd grade expectation. So that's really what I wanted to talk about with writing and what we've done so far. We've done our personal narratives and we've done summarizing, and where we're moving next is we're moving into opinion writing, which I'm really excited about. Your kids are so funny. They have so many different opinions about things and it always just cracks me up. So far we've already played Would You Rather, and where we're moving next is kind of organizing their ideas and actually collecting the ideas to make sure they have a strong enough opinion about it and they can have some examples and reasons to prove that their opinion is the best. And so here's kind of where we're moving with it. Again, I'm sorry these are backwards. I'll send you guys pictures and attach them to the video. Where we're going into this, I love ice cream. I love ice cream because you can add different toppings. I love ice cream because there are so many flavors. I love ice cream because it's refreshing on a hot day. And that's just kind of the beginning steps. Like I say, we're really moving kind of slowly into this, and we're just starting a beginning of kind of like our 6-week publishing piece with this. So we haven't started our publishing pieces. We're really just at the beginning. So we're going to be moving into opinion. After opinion writing, we finish opinion and we publish the day before we start our winter break. And then we move on to our nonfiction writing, which looks like the California State Park or California State like National Park. They choose a park to write a brochure about, and so they use what they've learned about gathering information, and we teach them how to use the internet to research different parks, and it's a really fun activity. It's something that's really close to my heart. As I've shared before, both my parents were park rangers growing up, and so this is just so much fun for me to do with the kids. They create a brochure, and they also write an informational piece. So that will come up in the springtime. That's kind of between winter break and spring break. And then if I'm feeling really ambitious, after spring break, we'll get into our literature responses. It might not happen until more like late April, May time, but that's when we read pieces of literature by like Patricia Polacco is one of my favorite authors, and we learn how to respond to that kind of literature, and we kind of dig deeper and we look at what the true meaning of the story is, what the true meaning of the characters are, and they learn how to just kind of do small writings for that. There's not necessarily a publishing piece. They really kind of do reflections in their journal. So that's where we're going with writing. And the other thing is I have a writing journal. I'm working on it right now. So it normally lives, if this is our classroom, it normally lives right here, along with our math journal. We also have an everything journal, and then the book we're currently reading, an overnight book checkout. But anytime your child is absent or they're not getting something, they always have access to the same journals that I'm using. So when I'm doing examples on the board or I'm trying to demonstrate something, I try and track or glue in all the same pieces that they should have. So again, sorry, upside down, backwards, or whatever. But it should look something like this. They have a number of papers in there that they've especially like glued in that we've done either together as a class or as, I'm trying to like find a good spot for the video and it's really not helping me. Sorry guys. And it just really helps kids keep track and helps me keep track of what we've been doing. So this is like, we have a whole section on personal narrative, and then here's our checklist. So they have had their checklist glued in since the very first day we started doing narrative, and they know that these are all the parts that they are being graded on and that I'm looking at when I'm looking at the their final finished publishing pieces. And then we've had a teaching point for all these different areas. And we've had practice looking at examples. We have practiced together like writing responses, and then ultimately they integrated those parts into their publishing pieces. So they've had this since day one, and they know that we are going through each part of this in order to complete their publishing pieces. And then here's kind of all the different parts of their writing notebook. Mine's a little bit shorter because usually I'm out helping the kids, but in general I have like the teaching point written down. And the really like key element why I do this is because I want them to have access to the same thing that I have, and they have an example to look at of what their writing should look like. And we just started opinion writing, so now they have our opinion writing checklist glued in, as well as some other kind of important graphic organizers. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea that, you know, like that answers the question of what to do when my child's absent. Where do they look? Where can they find information that they've missed? They can always look in these journals that I have up here in the front of our classroom. And they can always ask me too, or other students in our class. Everybody's pretty helpful. So they, like I say, they have access to it. Other than that, that's kind of where we're going with writing. If you guys have any more questions about writing, what we've been doing so far, or where we're going with it, I'd be happy to answer them. I hope that answers some questions. Have a great night.